Welcome to this episode of Let's Talk Someone Six Sports. Today, my special guest is Steve, and I will be talking some NHL hockey. How do you think Coach Granato is doing so far with the Sabres?
I really like it. I really like what he's been able to pull from the group. I think if you watch up until the point, obviously, where Ralph Kruger had been replaced, I'll preface this by saying I was definitely in Ralph Kruger's camp, and I supported the decision by the Sabres to bring him on. I thought it would be a good move. I think he proved me wrong. I think, yeah, what you're seeing Coach Granato do right now with the group is almost like pulling blood from a stone. It can't be easy to motivate, highly competitive athletes when realistically there's nothing left for them to be competitive for. In a year where, I mean, let's be honest, COVID has given everybody an excuse that they could latch onto. So yeah, I mean, I think it's great, and I know that there's probably some Sabres fans out here that don't want to hear this, but I mean, if they continue on this trend, he will be your next head coach. And I know that, like I said, I know a lot of the Sabres fan base are wanting a big name, but those big names don't always work. And I think sometimes if you get the right group and the right voice in the room, that's really all that matters. It doesn't have to be a Mike Babcock or somebody else. Maybe not him. I mean, obviously he's almost out of the game now, but someone of that major, pedigree doesn't necessarily translate to wins. So yeah, I think he's doing a fantastic job, and I'm happy to see that the Sabres are competing. I mean, it's one thing to lose, it's just another thing to roll over and die.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that because the game that they just played on Tuesday night was against Boston, and they they looked like they were like competing better than they were with the other with Coach Kruger.
Oh, I agree, and like it's just there's a lot of talent in that room, and I was definitely someone before the season that had the Sabres as a competitive team. I don't know if I necessarily had them in the playoffs, but I thought that they would be right there, and I thought that maybe they'd even be in the point where they were a buyer at the deadline, trying to add a piece to push themselves into the playoffs. Obviously, that didn't really pan out that way, but I think now you're seeing the true level of the group, and I think the team is better than what they've shown, and I think that you're starting to see a real belief in, hey, we can play with teams, we can win some games, and yeah, it comes with coaching, absolutely. And yeah, I'd like to see, I hope that they do really well this year down the stretch, and that he locks himself up. It's a good hockey family. There's a lot of I think there's a lot of potential there.
Like with Jack Eichel being injured, who do you think would step up since Taylor Hall has been traded?
Well, I mean, if I'm a Sabres fan, I'm telling you the name I want of the person that I want to step up, and that'd be Jeff Skinner. I mean, you're paying this guy $9 million a year. He's supposed to be performing at a much higher level. The buck really starts and stops with him. I mean, obviously, you can go down the lineup. I mean, you're going to want to see continued contributions from Rasmus Dahlin, and obviously you'd like to continue to see Ristolainen continue to be kind of a stabilizing force on the back end. But I mean, yeah, you look at the guys who are getting paid the biggest amounts of money, and there's your problem. You have to have people put up points that coincide with the amount of money and cap that they take up. Otherwise, you're wasting space, and he's got to step it up. I mean, the whole roster has really kind of started to dig in and figure it out. So I have faith that at some point something's going to shake loose here, but. Yeah, I mean, obviously goaltending's big too, so we'll see. I think Allmark is playing kind of for his contract at the end of this, so it should be interesting. I think you guys could go on a little tear here.
Like with Omar being hurt now again, now that he got hurt last night, do you think um the Sabres would be in the market for a goalie in the offseason?
Personally, I think Linus Ullmark is likely headed to free agency. That's just because he's been with this organization for so long, and there just hasn't been able to be success found. I think for a guy like him, he's probably interested in seeing what that market looks like for him in terms of dollar, term, and destination. So I do believe that, yeah, the Buffalo Sabres will be in the market for a goalie. Absolutely. I know they're not going to be the only team. I imagine almost every team is in the goalie for a market for a goalie. Sorry.
How do you think the Oilers will finish the season?
I think that they're going to do pretty strong down the stretch here, and I'm thinking that they should be able to finish second in the division, behind the Maple Leafs. It'd be nice now if they could string together a few wins and maybe push the Maple Leafs. But that's a really good club there, and they definitely have put some points in between the two groups. So, yeah, I mean, it really comes down to the play of Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen. The rest of the group is pretty solid. The defense can be at times a little shaky, but yeah, if Mike Smith continues the play that he's been, I definitely don't see any issue with the Oilers taking second in that division and maybe pushing the Leafs on the outset.
How many years has Connor McDavid been in Edmonton?
I believe this is his sixth season now, his sixth campaign with the Oilers.
Do you think that Tyler Ennis is a good defenseman or forward?
Yeah, I think that Tyler has a lot of skill. He's got a lot of stuff that teams are looking for in terms of being able to work at his edges, being able to shoot it off the rush. He's small in stature, but he's kind of able to move himself in and out of players in defense. Yeah, he's an effective player. Personally, I have obviously a personal connection with him, and I really like the player and the person. So I think he's a really good hockey player, and like I said, I really hope that he has continued success and that we see him in an Oilers jersey until he retires.
Do you think the Oilers will make it to the Stanley Cup final this year?
That's a tough question. Yeah, that's a good one. If I was to speak from the heart, I'd say yes. If I was to say, would I put money on it? No. From the heart, their group is there. The core, the pieces that you need to win a Stanley Cup, they're there. Are they all going to hit at the right moment? That's the question. It really comes down to a lot of different factors. And as we know in hockey and in the playoffs, once you get into that situation, anything can kind of happen. An injury or anything can really derail the whole thing. I like their chances to compete in the North Division. I mean, even in a series against the Maple Leafs, I know the head-to-head record this season hasn't looked good for the Oilers, and the Leafs are a very good hockey team, and they just got deeper. But I don't know. Anytime you got Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl on your team, you take your chances. They could do it. my money would be on no. I think the Maple Leafs are going to win this division.
Who do you think would be in the Final Four in the North Division?
I think it's pretty well locked up. I know that Calgary hasn't exactly been officially eliminated, but I do believe that they're almost there. Before the season started, I had Toronto, Calgary, Edmonton, and Winnipeg, and it seems that Calgary and Montreal are going to swap spots. So yeah, no, I think it'll be Toronto, Edmonton, Winnipeg, and Montreal, and I think it'll be in that order. I do believe that the Winnipeg Jets just don't have quite the defensive depth needed to stop the Oilers. I think the only team that can beat the Oilers in this division is the Maple Leafs.
What do you think of having fans at like limited capacity in the stands?
I mean, speaking from a Canadian's perspective, we're not there as a society yet. We haven't really quite decided that we're in that position. Speaking from a fan's point, I mean, obviously, I'd love to be there. I mean, it's an incredible venue. It's an amazing arena, and honestly, I think this whole thing, the COVID-19 pandemic, has really kind of shed light on how much we value those types of events. I was just talking to my coworker, and we were just basically kind of talking about how much we missed things like festivals and rodeos and things where you have this live and entertainment and interaction with people. Yeah, I mean, we would love to do it. I know that if I'm not mistaken, Oilers Entertainment Group, OEG, which is the ownership group here in Edmonton, are working very closely with AHS, which is Alberta Health Services, to try to get fans back into the stands, and they're going to kind of make it as the blueprint on how to do it safely. I hope it's sooner rather than later. Vaccinations are lagging behind a little bit here, and hopefully we can get that under control and have guys. I'd love for these guys to be able to play in front of some of us for the playoffs. It would be such a shame if they couldn't.
Who is the best player on Edmonton?
I mean, we have Connor McDavid, so I think it's a pretty cut and dry conversation. I love Leon Draisaitl. In my personal opinion, he's my favorite Oiler, Leon. And that's not a knock against Connor. Connor just makes it look so easy that it's sometimes you almost become accustomed to the greatness. I'm sure Pittsburgh Penguins fans felt the same watching Mario, or Oilers fans of the 80s felt that way maybe watching Wayne. But yeah, Connor makes it look so easy and so simple that you almost forget that he's playing the best players in the world. I find that with Leon, the power, the game, and the style of game is just a really fun style of game. Like he has people just bouncing off of him and rolling off of him, and the pass. I mean, the backhand pass. I would say the best backhand passer I ever saw play the game was Matt Sundin, and I would say now that it is Leon Draisaitl, and I don't think there's a better passer on earth. That being said, the best player that plays on the Edmonton Oilers is 100% Connor McDavid.
Do you think that like in the future Connor McDavid would be a good player still?
Yeah, I think what we know based off of regression of superstar elite hockey players is that the peaks of all elite players are typically the same, but the descent is usually a lot slower. So will Connor McDavid be scoring 130 and 140 points when he's 32 or 31? No, he will regress towards the mean, but the mean to him is 90 or 89 points. So if you're telling me if Connor McDavid's 33 or 34 and he's scoring 80, 89 points, I take that. I mean, even at the $12.5 million cap hit. So I don't think, I think realistically, when this is all said and done, and I'll put my name to this, is I think we'll end up talking about Connor as the third best player to ever play behind Mario and Wayne. That's my personal opinion. And I think he's going to try to cement that legacy, and hopefully he wins Stanley Cups here in Edmonton. That's all I hope.
Is Mike Smith like a good goalie for like going into the playoffs?
I mean, if I'm not mistaken, Mike Smith currently holds the record for save percentage by a goalie in the playoffs. So he's actually, I would argue, a better goalie in the playoffs than he is in regular season. I'll say this, and I grew up in New York. I mean, I've grown up here now, a New York Jets fan since I don't know how long. And they've competed against Tom Brady, and I've watched Tom Brady dominate them. And you kind of just start to see, like, when you get to that high of a level and you're that good of an athlete, you constantly find new ways to push yourself. And I know that Mike Smith put a lot of work into the offseason and fundamentally changed how he played the position. And that's very hard to do at 39 years old, but he did it. And he has absolutely found a new level and a new stride. And I personally am glad that he made us all look stupid, because it's a great story. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Tim Thomas run with the Boston Bruins. It kind of reminds me of that a little bit. But he's the heart and soul of the team. I don't think people outside of this market really understand what Mike Smith means to the Edmonton Oilers. I think he drives a lot of the conversation in the room. And I think he holds people like Connor and Leon accountable. When you've been in the league that long, you've won so many games and competed at every level. I think you have the ability to stand up to Connor and Leon and to the leadership group when you think maybe they're not bringing their best game. And, there are times when they do that, and they do need to be held accountable. And I think he's vital to the room. And I think Ken Holland deserves a big gold star for making him a priority this offseason.
How many points does Connor McDavid have so far this season?
Oh, I know that he's leading the league. You caught me a little bit on the spot there. I could probably pull it up here 1 second. I believe if I last saw, he was on pace for around 140 points. Currently, he is not there yet, obviously, but we do have games to play. And he is currently sitting at 69 points in 42 games. So there's still quite a bit of games left. That's 14 games left for the Oilers. I know some of them will be against the Vancouver Canucks, which are obviously a team that haven't played hockey in 2 weeks and are coming off of COVID restrictions. I know they have 5 games remaining against them. So where Connor ends up, if I was a betting man, I'd say over 100 points. That's where I think he will end up.
When is the next game for the Edmonton Oilers?
It's tentatively scheduled for Friday night. I say that because currently we do not know the full situation surrounding the Vancouver Canucks. It seems people keep getting pulled off of the COVID restriction list and are being able to practice back in the facility. I know the Canucks just reopened their facility. So Friday night against the Canucks, and then they'll follow that up immediately with another game the next night. And I believe that'll be against the Winnipeg Jets. So 2 bang bang like that. They haven't played since Friday night when it was the Colby Cave Memorial, and they lost 5-0 to the Calgary Flames.
Was Colby Cave part of Edmonton and Boston?
Yeah, he was. I believe he started his career in Boston, and we brought him over. Just one of those guys from everything that I've read and seen about him, just that very well liked. sad thing. A lot of people outside of this market, so the people that are listening to your show, who are from your area, you might not know much about Edmonton, but Edmonton is a very, very close knit community. A lot of people around here call it basically a big town. I mean, we're a metro area of 1 million plus, but everybody knows everybody somehow. Like there's only like a few degrees of separation between everybody, and to lose somebody like that, it affected a lot of people in this community. I know that. And now subsequently, you know, to go on to the social media kind of this morning and see that his wife, Colby's wife, has had to take a step back from social media because of attacks over this whole Colby Cave thing. I just think that's really disheartening, and it's not really what the Edmonton community is about, or the Oilers community. So yeah, Colby Cave is going to be missed here in Edmonton and with this organization, and I just really hope that the people that are speaking to her that way are just giving themselves a reality check.
Do you have any questions?
I do. I have a very important question, and I really hope that you can answer it for me. I keep hearing from Sabres fans all the time that a Jack Eichel trade will not occur before his no movement clause kicks in. And I simply have to understand, from a Buffalo Sabres standpoint as an organization, how does it make sense to allow the player to see his no movement clause kick in before trying to trade him? It severely hampers you, as you just saw with the Taylor Hall situation. So if Jack is asking for a trade, would it not make more sense to trade him before the no movement clause?
So, like, you're saying like Jack would have a no movement clause or something?
Yeah, his no movement clause kicks in after next season, and I'm told by most Sabres fans and pundits that that's when he would ask for a trade, because he gets to control where he goes with the no move. But I'm sitting there going, if you're the Buffalo Sabres, why would you wait? Because at that point, he could make it, oh, I'm only going to Boston. So now all of a sudden you're not getting the return that you need for Jack Eichel.
So, like, he could go to any team if he was.
He'd be able to refuse any team. So if the Buffalo Sabres got offered 6 first-round draft picks by the Edmonton Oilers, but he says no to the Edmonton Oilers, but they only get offered a 2nd-round draft pick by the Philadelphia Flyers, but he says yes to the Flyers, well, they're going to have to trade him to Philly.
I'm hoping that he doesn't get traded to like either Boston or Philly, but or like he would just stay in Buffalo.
Yeah, I think he probably will. I think that's probably what's going to end up happening.
What do you think of Jack Eichel as a Sabre?
I think Jack Eichel is I mean, besides Dominic Hasek, I think Jack Eichel is the most talented player to ever play for the Buffalo Sabres. He's a phenomenal hockey player. I mean, this season, outstanding. I don't think anybody can be judged for what's going on in Buffalo right now. I think that was a disaster, and it's not Jack's fault. I think, yeah, I mean, I think on a good year, he's a top five center in the NHL, and his two-way game is phenomenal, and you can't knock him. He produces every single year, and he's a really good hockey player. I really hope that the Buffalo Sabres figure it out and get that guy the help he needs, because it would be great. I've always wanted to see Buffalo and Edmonton be strong teams. It's not nice to be as bad as our teams have been. It's hard, and it's hard as fans to cheer for them. So, yeah, like as Oilers fans, we hate seeing the Sabres go through this. We want them to be good. So, I mean, I really hope they figure it out and that Jack is a Sabre for life.
What do you think of McDavid playing against Austin Matthews?
I mean, Austin is a great player. He's tough. He's tough to match up against, and I don't know if the matchup works particularly well for Connor. Austin can almost match him skill wise. And then it seems that Austin has developed his defensive game a little bit quicker. That being said, if in a 7-game series I had to choose, I mean, I'm obviously choosing Connor. I think Connor's the better player. And I really do. Having to play against the Leafs in general is going to be a very, very difficult thing for the Oilers. Organizationally, the team, the Toronto Maple Leafs, is designed to stop and defend Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. They knew that they were going to have to very likely go through them in the playoffs. And I'm not saying that they built their team with that sole purpose in mind, but definitely have pieces there designed to shut those guys down. And they proved this season that they can do it. And yeah, I mean, it's going to take a lot from the Oilers to be able to push past the Leafs. It really will.
If McDavid and Eichel and Matthews played against each other, who do you think would be the better player?
It's hard. It's hard to say. I mean, I think it's clear at this point Connor's the best. I mean, he's the only one that's won a Hart Ross, Lindsay, and he's going to win all of those again. So a 2-time MVP. I mean, he's probably the best player. That being said, in terms of Jack Eichel and Austin Matthews, I've seen this debate on before, and I think it's tight. But honestly, I think right now Austin has kind of pushed himself into that next category right below Connor. And that's not a knock on Jack. I mean, look who Jack is playing with. It's a way different organization. And the Toronto Maple Leafs have built an absolutely phenomenal roster around Austin since the moment he stepped in. And then they gave him a $10 million a year head coach to teach him. So it's different. It's apples to oranges. But I mean, yeah, Connor is still the best. He's the class of the NHL. And until somebody can prove otherwise, I don't have much room for debate on it.
Yeah, I don't either. But I think like Connor McDavid would be a good player in the playoffs and like in the season.
Oh yeah, I don't think the last time Connor went into the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken, he was 19, 20, and he definitely showed his age against the Anaheim Ducks when you had guys like Kessler and Getzlaff who knew how to game, knew how to kind of get in your face, and knew how to get you off your game. I don't think that's in Connor's nature anymore. So I think, yeah, transitioning into the playoffs is going to be a lot better. Not to mention, this whole season has really kind of felt like playoffs for at least up here in the North Division. It's been really tight the whole year, and there's been some anger and there's been some aggression between some teams. So, yeah, I don't think there's going to be any issues from any of the Oilers ratcheting it up, and Mike Smith has got the fire. So I'm excited. Honestly, I'm just hoping that everybody can get through the rest of the season without any COVID outbreaks, and then we can just kind of finish this thing on time and go back to the playoffs, and hopefully then we vaccines, and this is the last year we have to deal with any of this.
What do you think of the Battle of Alberta, like Calgary and Edmonton?
Well, I'll say this for any Calgary Flames fans that are listening, because I'm on the show and you're listening, so you're gonna get your dig. I mean, it's not much of a battle this year. No, in my opinion, it's the best rivalry in hockey, and I don't think there's anything that comes close. When these two teams are at the top and they're competing, it goes well beyond hockey. There's a lot of rivalry between Calgary and Edmonton, the cities that we live in. It's healthy for the most part. It's kind of like a big brother, little brother, or cousin type deal. We don't like to watch the other win, but at the same time, I think Edmontonians and Calgarians have had each other's back in a lot of ways too. So it's a very unique thing. And yeah, like I kind of equate it to going to war with your brothers. Like I grew up with, two older brothers, and we would play games and things would get nasty and people would get aggressive. And that's what it feels like every single time those guys play. And it's beautiful. Honestly, I really hope that someday we get a Lake Louise game or an outdoor game on a lake or something like that, like they just did there at Lake Tahoe. And I'd love to see that here in Canada with those two teams.
Yeah, I I watched that series with like the Lake Tahoe series with the the Knights playing against um Colorado.
Yeah.
I think that was a good series between
Yeah.
those two teams.
I think it's cool too, just the visual of it, right? Like, I mean, not maybe not so much now, but here in Canada, pond hockey is still a very big thing. Like, as soon as and I'm sure it is still in Buffalo outdoor rinks. I mean, you guys have pretty similar climates, so it's not like it's that extreme. And like that's really the beauty of the game, and is some of that stuff and some of the things you're able to do with it. And yeah, I thought visually that Lake Tahoe game was just, I thought that whole thing was really cool. And like I said, I really hope that they can do it up here on Moline Lake or Lake Louise. We have some pretty incredible stuff up here, and yeah, I would love to show it off.
You think that like they would have a Winter Classic game?
Yep. I mean the Heritage, I think it's called Heritage Classic up here for the Canadian teams. But yeah, I mean if they were to do a Heritage Classic game out there, I think that'd be great. Like the outdoor game is awesome. I mean it's hard to pull off here in Canada because in the winter months we get down to -30, -40. So yeah, it's kind of tough to have guys go out and play in that and risk injury. So I get it, logistics wise, it's difficult, but yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything cooler than that. That Lake Tahoe thing was really cool.
Thank you for watching this episode of Let's Talk 716 Sports. Thank you to my guest, Steve, and have a great day.